like a societal topic, and you basically explain why you should give a crap. So, here we go. Having a conversation with my 87-year-old grandfather is sort of like eating at Taco Bell. Sooner or later, you know something offensive is gonna come out. As the youngest, I have often been the butt of the joke, and it was funny. Until my butt became the joke. You're getting fat! Thanks, Gramps. Now, even in my teenage angst and sensitivities, I was able to understand what he was actually trying to say, and realized that it was entirely out of love. And while some may view this comment as harsh, I just call it a typical Sunday, where the plat du jour is the unadulterated truth. But in our society, euphemistic language has become a social norm, especially in the land of 10,000 passive aggressors. But if our parents, our teachers, and our leaders continue to talk around their actual meaning or intent, serious consequences may develop through miscommunication, such as when we turn on the news and hear, airstrikes cause collateral damage. What we really should be hearing is planned bombings kill hundreds of innocent civilians. Euphemisms are technically lies because you are disguising the truth. So today, we are going to take my Gramps' advice first and shed the weight created by euphemisms on our language by first discovering why we use euphemisms, second, realizing why they are so problematic, and finally, resolving to find some solutions. Euphemisms are in fact motivated by fear. Through her findings, Yisa Kahende Youssef of Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria says that we use euphemisms out of the fear of being distasteful to our audience. This is the fear of saying what we really think, the fear of saying what we really want, and the fear of saying what we really feel. In a journal published in the International Medical News Group, January of 2016, psychologist Dr. Lawrence Bloom acknowledges that when his patients use the terms stress, frustration, or control, they may be using them as euphemisms or figurative walls to try to conceal more severe emotions that perhaps scare them. In a 2015 study conducted by the University of California, San Diego, 36% of respondents underreported their mental illnesses. This behavior only emphasizes the fact that the stigma surrounding mental illnesses encourages euphemistic language. Now, you may be thinking, but Maggie, people won't like it when we're so upfront. Well, we actually elected someone who completely rejects the standards of our euphemistic culture. It is no doubt that President Trump says exactly what he's thinking at all times. And this could be one of the key factors that contributed to his victory. Researchers at Ohio State University found that in times of great stress or tension, such as in the election season, people prefer to hear honest, emotionally charged language, so as to not give them a false sense of reality and deceive them. In the case of Donald Trump, voters associated his somewhat brutal honesty with being trustworthy. This research additionally concluded that people identify with Donald Trump because he says the things that they are thinking, but are too afraid to actually say. Some of his most famous remarks include calling Senator Rand Paul a spoiled brat and Anthony Weiner a perverted sleazebag. Well, Donald, takes one to know one. All joking aside, do have the ability to make even the most controversial of ideas sound appealing, even when they hide inherent discrimination. In the 1990s, New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani passed his notorious stop and frisk policy, all under the euphemistic law and order. However, if we draw back the curtain, we can see that stop and frisk only encourages racial profiling and is in fact unconstitutional. The New York City Civil Liberties Union confirms this notion in their data collected on stop and frisk from 2002 to the present. Every single year, an African American person walking down the street was 6 times more likely to be stopped by police. And 98% of the time, they were completely innocent. And just last month, Executive Director of the ACLU, Anthony DiRomero, came out and said, "Extreme vetting is just a euphemism for discrimination against Muslims." Last year, when we collectively gasped over the rape of a Stanford University student by fellow student Brock Turner, we did not hear Turner being referred to as a rapist. He was a good student. He was a swimmer. Turner was sentenced to only 6 months in prison, as compared to Corey Beatty of Vanderbilt University, a black student who was sentenced to 15 years for the exact same crime. In this situation, the terms good student and swimmer are really just euphemisms for the words white and privileged. And they're just ways to prevent calling Turner what he was right from the beginning: a rapist. Unfortunately, this situation hits very close to home. Just this last year, I was taken advantage of. No. I was raped by a boy 2 years my senior. While these words are very difficult for me to say, I now understand the necessity of their utterance. For weeks following, I would say, things went too far. Or I'd say nothing at all. I took the blame. It wasn't until recently that I realized that although the word rape is harsh, it pales in comparison to the actual horrors of the act. My euphemism held me responsible for being victimized. But once I was able to break free of its figurative chains and tell my parents what had really happened, the liberation I felt was indescribable. I'm not saying this for your sympathy. I'm saying this because if I held back the truth, I would be negating the last 8 minutes of my own rhetoric. So, where do we go from here? Well, in the immortal words of John Mayer, say what you mean to say. I know it sounds simple, but that's because it is. We need to understand that the benefits of direct communication are far-reaching. Take, for example, Charlotte, an 11-year-old girl who went out to do her annual sales of Girl Scout cookies this year. She decided to approach her sales a little bit differently. She gave her honest opinion of every cookie. She even went as far as to call Do-si-dos bland and unoriginal. and called the new Toffee-tastic cookie a gluten-free wasteland. While insulting your product seems like a poor sales method, she actually ended up breaking records and selling over 23,000 boxes. So enjoy that delicious truth. This idea is not cosmic, but in the days of deceit and alternative facts, speaking the truth is a revolutionary